And welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. It's time for Opinion Court. Please get in touch with us, 22422. That's our SMS line. If you're online at Citizen TV Kenya or at Citizen TV News, I am at Ann Kiguta. That's Ann with an E. Please use the hashtag Opinion Court. We'd love to be able to track your conversation. You can start texting in and tweeting, as well as Facebooking your responses to our conversation. I want to reintroduce my panel to you. Next to me is Nandi Hills MP Alfred Ketere. He is also the man who has twice shot at an impeachment motion against CS Waiguru and twice failed. In the middle is Edward Kisengani, our resident political analyst, and across from me, the National Chair of the National Alliance, Sakaja Johnson. You're all welcome to the program. I'll start with you, Alfred, because your critics will say that you are fixated on getting the CS impeached. What is it that drives you?
The need to see a corruption-free country. You see, and at the moment, we are facing a challenge of fighting for image as a country. Not just the image of Jubilee as a government or as a coalition party, but as a country. No one does not want to associate with us. Even our children who are abroad, those in diaspora, they are no longer proud to really feel they are Kenyans, because of the questions they get when they mention that they are Kenyans. There is a perception that has been created by many that when I started this war against graft, they've said that I'm fighting for some forces, I'm pushing the agenda of code or opposition. But I want to say the current setup in the new constitution, where parliament must be seen to be very independent, because we play oversight role to the executive, which is we should be having debates in a very objective manner, so that we ensure that our institutions are running in the right direction. You look at the procurement processes. Right. The tendering process, we no longer follow the Article 227.
Yeah, they also say, and this is being said to me on Twitter, you know, that you're not a credible man to fight corruption. Ask Alfred Ketere if he's working undercover with the opposition. And what about the Weighbridge issue, that video clip that circulated widely of yourself? This is sent in from Gigs Yule Moja. So, do you think your credibility to be the man, you know, walking around saying and graft is also affecting your ability really to push through such a motion?
That is a question, that is an issue that is before court, and I don't really want to dwell on that. But if my memory serves me right, early this year we went through that issue, and it was not about even the case that I'm facing in locals in Naivasha. It's not about corruption. It's not about any issue of corruption. It was just us going to fight corruption. And then they are saying the way we treated those officials there, we were not good, or we had issues of integrity. But to me, it is not easy when you're fighting corruption. This is a vice that is not, it has to fight back. Okay. It's not very easy to fight it.
Before I introduce the rest of the panel, the Speaker asked you to give the grounds, you know, for wanting the CS to be impeached, specifically asking for evidence and annexes indicating the offences that you believe the CS has committed. What such evidence do you have?
I have evidence, and with me, I've just submitted it to the clerk of the National Assembly. Many stories have been told about why I took a lot of time to do my submission, and even the perception that I had failed twice is wrong.
Could you go specifically to the evidence and very briefly outline it?
Two grounds that I'm moving my motion on. That is a gross violation of our constitution and gross misconduct. And I have issues.
List them briefly, if you would. So
I don't want to dwell on that, because I'll be preempting a debate. I've already submitted it before Parliament, and our standing orders are very clear. But I have issues and I have evidence to that effect. When I get there, I will submit, and I will move that. When I move that motion, it will be subject to members of Parliament to interrogate the issues that I've raised.
All right, Sakaja, what do you think of everything Ketere has said?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's been a while since I was on this show.
Yeah, welcome back.
And I'm glad you remembered that I'm available.
Okay.
One, Alfred Keter is a member of Jubilee, and he knows what our coalition believes in. And I always want to impute proper motive in the actions of the members of the coalition. However, in this instance, it is important to ask whether his actions are driven by principle or by or by malice. And why do you ask that? If it's principle, because I'm just picking up from where you've left off. If my brother Alfred believes very strongly that any public official who is facing charges, for example, which Anne Waiguru is not, she's not even facing charges. She's not even being investigated according to by the institution. If he believes very strongly that such a person should not be in office, then him who is actually facing charges should be the first to step aside. But that aside,
he should resign as Nandi Hills MP.
Yeah, but that aside, let me not argue about the person. It is not related. But I'm just bouncing off what I think has come from Twitter. If you look at the motion that had been, the basis on which signatures had been appended, that had gone round. If you look at the entire discussion around Anne Waiguru, and specifically what he had presented, at whatever point, I think today is presented at a different one, which is enhanced. There was not a single ground that was linking Anne Waiguru to corruption at all. The grounds were, if I'm not wrong, 3, and it depends on which version of the motion, because there were 3 versions at different times. But the grounds were 3. One of the grounds was that when she came to the Committee on Finance, Planning and Trade, that she didn't give correct information. The second ground was that she transferred, I think, a storekeeper and somebody else from NYS in Gilgil. And the third allegation, or rather the third ground, was that she did not espouse the values of the Constitution when she fired Gorse Melango and Rugut. Now, on those 3 grounds themselves, you're supposed to draw a direct nexus between the actions that you're complaining about, and that actually there's a complainant. For example, Finance Committee has not complained about that. That is one issue. That's an issue of opinion. Number 2, whether it is about Rugut or Semelango, you must show that it is how fired etc. So those grounds were not there. But the point is, even in those different iterations of the impeachment motion, there was no allegation of corruption on the part of Anne Waiguru. So I'd like to see if there is an enhanced motion, and Parliament is House of Rules. If the member enhances his motion and complies with the ruling that was given almost a month ago, and for which he had time to comply with, if he complies about that, we are very ready. I don't think anybody should be insulated from a process of Parliament. I don't think anybody should be protected unfairly, and I don't think that is what is happening. If the motion meets the threshold that is required, if he does his homework well, we will be glad to debate this motion in Parliament.
There is something that I want to react on what he's alleging, because now what he's trying to raise, that I had 3 grounds, I don't know he got it from where. Because with him, he has a document that I think it is fake. Because it was not, I did not submit that document to the clerk. The document that I've submitted today is a stamp.
So it's only today that you've submitted, because the news, what Kenyans know, you've submitted 2 different impeachment motions, and this is your new one.
Let me tell you, sir, that is, but he's a member of Parliament, and he understands the rules and procedures of that house.
Yes, exactly.
When you come with an intention, then you have a proposed motion. It is not a motion.
Okay, so what is the proposed motion? Tell us about it.
You have a proposed motion.
Tell us what the grounds are.
I will get there. Sakaja, allow me to prosecute this matter well.
Definitely.
Like I allowed you. You come up with an intention to impeach someone, or depending on what kind of motion you're running. If it is a special motion like the one that is that I came with, which Article 152, it is a constitutional motion, where the Speaker must give preference to it because it is a special motion. You come up with an intention. By that time, it is still a proposed motion, and when you get to the where you submit it to the clerk.
So just tell us.
I don't want us to belabor the point of House procedure.
No,
because
I've already said that the grounds.
That is not the point of the conversation. Your grounds are 2, and you have said it is 1. Fair enough. You're saying your grounds are 2. One that she has a.
Gross violation.
Gross violation, right?
And gross misconduct.
Tell us
every ground.
Fair enough. Professor, Prof, what do you think of those two grounds?
Well, I think...
gross violation of the Constitution.
Yes,
and
the fundamental question that should go into this discussion is to carefully read the Constitution,
yes,
and also say that all of us, Article 3 of the Constitution says all of us have a right to protect the Constitution. It's not just the work of Parliament to protect the Constitution. The two gentlemen here are discussing the procedural technicalities of presenting motions to Parliament.
No, I'm discussing content.
And for me, I would want us to switch this discussion to the point of even without Alfred Keteri's motion of impeachment, is there a crisis as a citizen that is worthy our attention? And
not just worthy our attention, but the conversation is about, is it worthy of impeachment?
Yes. In my opinion, the two things, gross violation of the Constitution. Anne Waiguru occupies that office on behalf, in trusteeship, on behalf of the people of Kenya. Article 73 expects that Anne Waiguru's integrity is above reproach. If you read Article 73, which is the beginning of the provision for integrity and leadership. So there are many other things, including Articles 232 on how public officers must operate. In my opinion, we cannot say that Anne Waiguru, we have proved corruption charges against her, but what we have proved is her incompetence. She has been unable to look after a ministry, and under her stewardship, a lot of money has been lost. Therefore, under Article 73, the public has no confidence in her ability to deliver services to the people of Kenya. Only on that, she should have stepped down. But since she didn't step down, and therefore we go to the next point of impeachment, she has grossly violated the Constitution because she should have been responsible enough to read the provisions of Article 73 and quit because she knows that people no longer have confidence.
Let's be clear on this first of all. Are we discussing Keteri's motion? Or are we now amending to create another one with the new grounds?
No,
we need to be clear.
You don't because we are talking about gross misconduct.
Now, let us put the let us agree that we put the failed impeachment motion aside there. Yeah, because that is what
because he does say that his new and improved motion is about gross violation.
And I'm proving my case.
Okay, so we can discuss. You also have a motion.
No. Let's not belittle the conversation.
Let me say this. Graft and the fight against graft is a very important hallmark of our constitution. In fact, for the first time in our constitution, we have actually entrenched provisions that set up an institution. Now, graft needs to be fought within that institutional framework, and it's important for us to be clear about that. Number one, I've heard people saying that yes, there's been loss in the ministry, etc. Let us go back and trace it to where it began. CS Anne Waiguru herself came up and actually said, guys, I have seen that there's an attempted fraud within the ministry, and I am asking the CID to come and investigate this. She was the first person to say it. We heard it from her. From her point of view at that point, before she asked for investigation, she said that she does not think money has been lost. No money has been lost. She asked for investigation. Investigations have been done, and they're saying actually 791 million shillings has actually been lost. It is true that the money has been lost. Now, how is responsibility taken for that? Where personal culpability can be proven, you cannot ask somebody to step aside for where culpability has been proven. No. Because, and I want to relate this to the case of the other CSs, because that is the point of reference. 4 other CSs have stepped aside, and they're testament to the fact the government is actually fighting corruption, because the president went to EACC beyond his mandate and asked for a list of those they're investigating. Those CSs were being investigated for personal culpability, that they were involved. Is EACC investigating?
Where is it personal? Let's respond to your point.
I'm not finished. If EACC say today,
he will have to.
If EACC say today that they are investigating Anne Waiguru because they believe that Anne Waiguru could be personally culpable, either by commission or omission, in the loss of that money, then she must.
I don't want to lose that point. Where is personal culpability in your motion?
Many things that I've discussed here, and I want to take him back where you started.
If you could answer my question, where is personal culpability in your motion?
There are many issues touching on now.
Could you outline some?
Not just at the moment, but
outline some.
Allow me to prosecute it well.
Yeah, go ahead, so we're on time.
I'm saying, like, I don't want to really revisit on the content of my motion, but I want to say...
You sound, you know, someone would be forgiven to think that you don't actually have personal evidence that shows personal culpability, which is what they're alleging, but you claim that it is there. What direct link
personal involvement?
You see, Sakaja,
allow him to respond.
You know the reason why I'm saying, but if you insist, please just tell even without touching on the issues that you're raising, because what he's raising is too shallow. We have more serious things that are touching on CS Waiguru, way back from even when she was a director of even Treasury. She was even on the list of the 175 who were under investigation. But for some reason, and I want to explain, for some reason, EACC, and I want to start from where it is regrettable, it is unfortunate that I am sitting as a member of parliament of a Jubilee coalition, which has presided over a collapse of institutions. EACC, for some reason, tried to cover that they were not investigating Anne Waiguru. But I have documents, and you will see. With
I can't authenticate the documents that you want to present right now, but I want to appreciate... Please hold on, Sakaja, please.
It's not a general feeling. I'm saying she was under investigation of a mismanagement of resources.
Alfred, your point has been made that you do have some instance. You've given an example where there may be a direct link. The authenticity of your document is another subject. I want us to move forward because, Sakaja, you've talked about the question of, you know, the government really showing commitment to the fight against corruption. Professor, I want you to respond to this. Let's listen to a clip by Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Kaiseri, still touching on corruption matters, and then we'll talk about what signals the government is sending in as far as the war on corruption. Listen.
Our analysis also point to a campaign which has a grand strategy that is aimed at destroying the government. We have even had valid call for unconstitutional means toward this end, which poses a direct threat to our democracy and national security. This campaign has several strands, and most alive is cloth enactment purportedly against graft, which are increasingly taking the shape of a larger plot of economic sabotage. In the last 1 week, we have also seen internalization of this hysteria with articles in international media outlets aimed at harming the nation's image.
The CS is basically saying that exposing corruption in the media is amounting to, quote-unquote, destabilizing the government. The same government that Sakaja is saying is willing to fight graft. Let Prof first come in.
You see, when you hear Kaiseri talk like that, actually he worsens the already very bad situation with the Jubilee administration, because it is in an intensive care unit. In terms of meeting the obligations of the voters, I don't know what will reverse this trend. You know, it's very cheap to talk like the way Kaiseri is. Actually, it just points out to one thing. Impunity is the other name for Jubilee. No. And so, what the president should do, since he has seen this kind of thing, it's not even enough to deal with one cabinet secretary. He should disband this cabinet, because it doesn't have people with wisdom to deal with the issues. The argument that, Anne, you are saying here is that there is no money which has been stolen
From where?
The way Ngaiseri is saying, it's like...
He may have been speaking in the context of the interior.
There is no corruption in Kenya. In fact, that's what he's communicating as a government minister. And now he's diverting attention to what we used to have in the 1980s. That, look, when you talk and criticize government, you are actually about to bring down government. It is really cheap, and the minister is really cheap. It can't cost even 100 shillings.
Wow.
I want to come to.
I want you to respond to that. Yes, about Ngaiseri's statement, but make it with your final comment, if you would, because we are. Imagine that. Do you think, including Ngaiseri's statement, that you're sending mixed signals on the war on corruption, and are you setting a bad precedent in the appearance that CS Waiguru will be quote-unquote protected at all costs?
First of all, on what CS Ngaiseri said, I think Kenyans know immediately those words were uttered by himself. I was amongst the first people speaking on behalf of Jubilee to say that this is not what we stand for in terms of media freedom and media rights. And the following day, he actually had a meeting with the cabinet secretary for ICT and the cabinet and the media owners of Nation, and actually apologized on that matter. I actually said it. In fact, it was the first statement, because from wherever we stand, whether we're in government or whether in the opposition, there are certain freedoms that Kenyans have fought for so long that we must always be able to.
But is it indicative of government thinking that reporting on corruption is a problem?
When Ngaiseri says it is government thinking, and when I, the chairman in Jubilee, says it is not government thinking.
Well, you're not a member of the executive, with all due respect.
You are a member of a political party. You are not the executive.
Your political party is one thing, this is the executive. Let him finish. The
political party formed government, and what I'm talking about is the manifesto they're implementing. The party is the custodian of that manifesto, and that manifesto talks very clearly about freedom of the media. And I must say this, we will continue to make sure that the media is free, whether it is being attacked by elements from within or from without government. But finally, let me say this, because we have to cut short. As we fight corruption, because we must fight it, and I must say the president took unprecedented actions. For the first time, we saw 175 people being forwarded for prosecution. All the institutions in the chain, in the conveyor belt of fighting corruption, must be able to fight, because the president did his part. He said, look, these people must step aside because they have been found personally culpable, and because EFCC is investigating them. He took them, he forwarded the names to Parliament, then to the DPP. We're seeing names being sent back. We need the EFCC to be a stronger ally in the fight against corruption. We need the office of the DPP to be a stronger ally in the fight for corruption. But the fight for corruption cannot become a political witch hunt, and it cannot be because of political expediency. If the institution that is dealing with corruption, and on anybody, there's no sacred cow. If they say today that they're investigating the CS Waiguru, or anybody for that matter, that person must step aside. But no one is going to step aside just because, and for, of course, interests that are almost political as well, just because people feel that we don't like this person and they make noise. The motion he brought has no link to her about corruption.
Which motion?
Just because of the general feeling, the motion that was rejected, just because of a general feeling, we can't have people step aside. The rule of law must rise above the rule of man.
Let me say this, but I have to start from where he left. That the fake motion that you are purporting.
Which motion do you have? Tell us.
The motion that you are moving around purporting that it was my motion is your own motion.
The motion that was rejected by the Speaker.
What Ngaiseri said is the Jubilee representation. That is the Jubilee of today. No. It is not the Jubilee that Kenya has elected. And I must say this, you might run away from the truth, but that is the truth. And one of the reasons why you could see Sakaja coming with a lot of confidence that I have no information, he thinks that by intimidating other officials not to give documents, they might have succeeded.
Who have intimidated?
We have succeeded to get all the information that are touching on CS Waiguru, on the entire issue that we have raised against her. And I must, let me repeat it.
Let
me make my point, Sakaja.
Please.
I must repeat this. We, the leadership of Jubilee, have failed. Both those of us in Parliament and the executive, because the dream that Kenyans were really focused on is totally different from what we are seeing.
If you feel so strongly against the, how Jubilee administration is performing, why shouldn't you resign from URP, which is a constituent party, and say, I will wait until 2017 to vie for position on a political outfit that I know will stand for what,
I'm still a member of URP, but for the record, they have already moved to another party.
No party has moved.
And unless you are stating now. Let me say this, Anne. The reason why we are not moving forward is because we have refused to be objective. If you see Sakaja, he's a brilliant young man who is so focused, but on issues like this, he is actually being, even when he came, he was being facilitated to just come here and mislead Kenyans that have no information. Look at the document.
You are completely just gone off without, we don't know whether, were you facilitated?
No, I must respond to that. Secretary is very good in funerals, in shows like this, talking about documents, but in Parliament there is nothing. It's
for offside. You can't talk like this here.
You can't talk like that. This is one guy was nominated by one person. I was elected by over 40,000 Kenyans. You were nominated by one person. In fact, you nominated yourself.
Oh dear.
No, let me talk.
You nominated yourself.
No, this is not what we want to hear. You know that.
No,
it's a shaming. But I want to say this.
Just be civil.
You know us. It just demonstrates the quality of parliament we have. And we have always complained about this parliament. This parliament is controlled by partisan interests, ethnic interests. You cannot pass a test of a good motion if you don't align yourself with certain ethnicities. And once you reach there, you completely lose the debate.
Which
that's the first thing. You are a partisan.
Gentlemen, please, I have to cut you
I'm finishing. The second thing that you want to talk about, and you mentioned this and it shouldn't escape, the issue of personal culpability. That is not the issue. The issue of what the Constitution says about people who have not performed their work well. It's not just about personal culpability that my brother is talking about, is that you are presiding over an office which people have lost confidence in. Under Article 73, you should step down. It hasn't been done. Then lastly, I'm
going to have to wind it up. I think my guests are out of order. I'm going to have to wind it up.
Finishing. You know I have not been a rock person in this debate.
We're going to have to take a break. We'll be back with more news after this.